Good afternoon. Time to wrap it up for October the 23rd, 2014. News story just hit the wire. A doctor from New York City who had been in Guinea treating Ebola patients for 10 days has been taken to the hospital with temperature of 103 degrees, manifesting Ebola-like symptoms. Remember when the Ebola stuff first hit, we said that confirmed case of Ebola, especially if domestically spawned, would impact the stock market. And there was an article a couple of days ago that showed the number of Ebola stories that were hitting the market when the stock market peaked and began to sell off. Nobody knows what the outcome of this disease is and how far it's going to go. The vector off of the Dallas cases, where they're monitoring over 1,000 people in the United States, are being monitored for Ebola at this moment. And that's that one person that came in and infected apparently only 2 nurses so far in that Texas hospital. The disease history, from what they statistics on that particular disease, is that every one person that catches the disease infects 2 others. There's your sell-off, and it can happen. Okay, what was that number we talked about this morning on the E-mini? 55, 56, pretty clean break in the market. And we did make it up to that number. Then the market starts down. So structurally, we knew we had this low volume number in the 55, 56 area. We talked about it this morning. Where did the market get to? 55, 56, almost 20 points from the day session low. And the selling began and was accelerated when the news hits. The news hits right here. So again, these are big markets. There's a hell of a lot of opportunity here, but you can trade these markets or approach these markets without accounting for risk, and at least a disaster stuff. So this is where the news hit the market at 52. We have a chance of getting back up there to make the market-making community right. But if we don't get back up there, then we should point down and go find out where support is. And right now, best support is in the 25 area, plus or minus. Bust the 25 area, it's 1904. So this is probably 1900, 1925 is probably good, probably about as good a support as we're going to have. Okay, this morning with the buy side, we were hoping to buy the 35 area. We on the first briefing talk about 37, 37.50 as potential support, and that's exactly what happened. So this is really a retest failure trade right here. You can buy in anywhere you want on it, but you would have been long in the 39 area. Really the first stop was at 40 and a half, about 10 points over there. Market consolidates, it extends up. Again, this time we would get stops above 50. It comes congestion area at 48, plus or minus. Everything was still pointed higher, and we traded higher later this afternoon. And here's your setback trade at an area where we said the market could stop, and that's where it did stop. So our assessment of the market and the market structure was pretty darn good when you get right. Better than good, but I do say so myself. So the market right now, definitely still dealing with P's. If I were to make sold all this back in, got to move out of the middle and Y period 3 days ago. This is the 4th day, and this market is still pointed up. We talked about if we got through the 55, 56 area, that the 68 area would be the next structural stop, and there's a high volume number up there. So we will see how it unfolds, but this screen right here says we're buyers. Only news tomorrow is new home sales is forecasted 460. Looking at the F2 because of the news, it's hard to say where it's going to go, so I'm going to put an M split, right? Try to put an M split in. And 50 could be resistance, this area up into this 50 area plus or minus. We'll see how it plays out. Without that piece of news, we'd be looking to be a buyer, and a good place to be a buyer. The single print right down here, the breakout at 43.50. And then the last rotate down was basically in the 38 to 40 area. So the first buy zone will be 40 plus or minus. This is not a confirmed case of Ebola yet. He will be monitored. If it is a confirmed case of Ebola, then I imagine the market will catch some selling. We're learning how to deal with the disease. We're getting better at locking people up. It's simple. They're age-old rules. You isolate, which means you surround the area that you want to keep people from getting into or from getting out of. Then you quarantine those that have the disease. You bury the dead. Then those that survive or come out the other side have dodged a huge bullet and they get on down the road. So the buy area, this 35 to 40 area, could be support. We'll just have to see where the selling takes us this afternoon. On the sell side, 49.51. And then our 54.56. Tomorrow's news, new home sales, and it's 460,000. Interesting, the entire world on the Canadian terrorists, there's two lone wolf incidents in Canada this week. Both of them were involved. The first attacks were against Canadian soldiers, and the ISIS talked about going out and attacking Canadian soldiers, the lone wolves, and it's happened. The United States reaction and statement to that was pretty muted yesterday, but you would expect it to be such. Okay, this is definitely a selling profile. Tomorrow is the option expiration. Yesterday we came in with it being 27.28, which made 27.16 most likely. Based on what we know right this morning, we'll be talking closing at 127 or how to get on the right screen. So we're a seller here. Got a pretty clean break in this 27.12 area. So starting out this morning structurally at 27.12. 26.24 looks for the range. We'll have support at 24 and resistance at definitely at 27.12, but starting at 27.04. And if the E-mini sells really heavily and starts to really give it up this afternoon, we really don't want to be short for now. Okay, the low volume number is at 23.5. On the top side, the low volume number is at 5.5. So this 4 to 8 area is probably pretty good resistance. So selling failure out 4 to 8, I think is a good trade. Then 11 to 15. On the buy side, we'll make it 25, 29, then 17 to 20. New home sales expected at 460 tomorrow. It's not usually a market mover, so I think they'll be awaiting the test results from the Stockton in New York City. You know, you have to take your hands off to the medical profession because certain physicians will stick their hands and nose and expose themselves to really terrorist activity, kidnappings, assassinations, in some of the world's worst diseases. And it's a pretty courageous group. Perhaps a bit crazy, but you know they get vilified by politicians for being only in the money, and they do make good money. There's no doubt about that. But nobody could put up with the hours and the stuff to put up with just to make money. There has to be more to it than, well, maybe plastic surgery. Not everybody can be perfect, right? Just kidding. Any of you all that are plastic surgeons out there or know any plastic surgeons, but you got to have a little. Okay, the knob spread contracted today, but on up days it expands, on down days it contracts, so that's why the price is volatile is the note. So this 4203, 42 even area right here is really good resistance. So 28 to 40, self-failure to take that out. And again, we just really, if we get through 42, I'd say 7 to 11. We came in today with 42, 44 is the points. I don't know where they'll be today for option expiration. So we'll give it a little room to the upside for sell 2. On the buy side, last rotate down was 16, so we'll make 17 to 13 buy 1. And then 5 to 9 for buy 2. On the idea that no news, option expiration, and the uncertainty of this Ebola, the test outcome on Ebola, will hold this market in check. Back when I was in the military, we got involved in some pretty bad earthquakes and typhoons, where we would take aid into people, and the medical community, if they're not, if they're familiar with what they're dealing with, and if they're restricted by political correctness, politicians know how to catastrophe and disasters, and it's called triage in the military, where you just basically look at them. This person has no hope. They're sedated. This person can survive with the proper treatment, and this one will survive. And they treat that way. So when you get into really bad areas where people are really wounded or shot up or really severely injured by natural disasters, they go through and they look at it. And as we deal with Ebola, and as the American medical community becomes more familiar with it, no doubt they'll adopt better protocols, better ways of handling it, and better treatment. But the treatment will be the same, and it'll be isolation, quarantine, until you prove that you're disease-free, and then treat you as best you can under those conditions. It's not complicated stuff. Okay, gold. Off of that news, it's a risk-off investment rally. So we've got this real clean break right here in the 35 area. So 35 plus or minus sell. And then basically the last rotate 38 to 40 for sell. I like the 25 to 27 area just because it's a round number, so we'll leave that the same. And then we're back to our 18 to 20, this low volume number right here. Basically resistance 35 to 40 and support in the 20 to 25. Okay, crude was interesting. If Saudi Arabia is vocally willing to cut back production, they can hold prices in this area. Saudi Arabia did say they weren't afraid of $80 oil. There are all sorts of stories associated on what got Saudi Arabia back to supporting crude oil, if they have come back to support crude oil. Hard to say. But the price of oil, if you're deep in the Gulf, according to my energy sources, $40 oil, $45 oil per barrel. Pay even with these billion-dollar holes that they have to drill there. Depending on the shale oil play, it's anywhere from $40 to, I haven't seen anything from my sources that say much above 60, but the press has said it's $80 to break even on some of those formations. That would be a pretty risky. Natural gas, you can poke holes on all these coal mines if they're shutting down and frack them and have natural gas for a year, or burn coal in situ and get now all the natural gas that you want. So it won't be threatened, but crude oil could be. So here we are, crude, and you can see that volume really starts in this area right here, and it's pretty sparse down below. So the attractor right here is this 81-83 area. The selling from the other day started in the 82.78. The high is 38, so maybe stops above today's high. So 82.50 to 75, sell one. Then we're back to our 83.125, which is a pretty solid sell. On the buy side, 38, 58. Last rotate down was 28, so it's 25 to 50 buy one, pretty. And then our 75 to 80, one buy two. The problem facing Saudi Arabia and every other producer out is weakening global economy. And right now, everybody pretty certain that Europe is going to fall into a recession, and that only the United States and China will escape a recession. But if Europe does go into a recession, then growth will be slowed in China and the United States because of our exports to the European. The big explosion in worldwide growth has been world trade, the World Trade Organization, the simplifying and the elimination of trade around the globe. And so if all the growth comes from world trade, then if you hamper or restrict world trade, you hurt world growth, or if you have recessions in part of the world, growth is okay. The 70, pretty good resistance. We're at 56, so 75 to 85 allow them to get stops above today's highs, sell one, and 27, 27.10 for sell two. On the buy side, our 30 to 40 worked pretty well. We're dealing with a B, so let's make it 20 to 30 overnight. And then we got this low volume number down here at 26.09, so we'll make 26 even, 26.10 for buy two. So basically 26, 26.25 is support, and 26.75, 27 is resistance when you look at this. I was reading an interesting article on how societies and governments get formed and what maintains them. And crony capitalism, the elite few that are tied to whoever the symbolic leader, the throne, the house, the parliament, or whatever it happens to be, over time they become entrenched, and they will try to maintain, even gain more power, more money, more wealth, more assets. And eventually that's what drags, the stagnation that comes from that is eventually what drags societies down. But it doesn't speak well of crony capitalism, and we really see so much of that right now, where large corporations, large entities control quite a bit of what's done in our economy. That's it for October the 23rd. I'll see y'all bright and early in the morning, 6:45. Meantime,